Cathy Holman, let me see, stay-at-home mom, former teacher, public speaker. How many kids?
5.
5 kids. Okay. Ranch?
We have, so if you don't live in Wyoming, you call it a ranch. If you live in Wyoming, you call it a large amount of acreage with some animals.
Prairie wife in heels, you travel, you write, you blog, and sleep 20 minits a night. Because there's no other way you're going to get all of that done.
I try and do at least 4 hours.
Yeah, okay. So now, how are you handling, because this throws even you, who you do all that you do every day. Now, here comes COVID-19, throws your whole life a curveball. You've got to adjust everything. How are you handling it?
I think as of right now, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
I would say the first 2 weeks, it was all about focusing on not making this a traumatic experience for my kids, right? So all of those things that I do, I'm a mom first and foremost. And so I think as parents, that's been the real challenge here. You want to let your kids know what's going on, but you also don't want to give them too much information. And I'm trying to make decisions based on 573 different articles I read every day about what's safe and good.
Okay, so why aren't we in school, Mom? Why do I have to wear this face mask, Mom? And tell them why without freaking them out.
You got it. So my main line all along with our family, and I do have 5 children, and the ages are from 14, so he's a freshman now. Don't worry, I'm going to be fine. And the youngest is 5. So I've got the teens and the tweens where that social interaction is vital for them right now in their development, and whoops, guess what they're not getting. And then you have the little ones who, same thing, they need to be mixing with other kids besides their family. So my tagline all along is, we are doing this out of love, not out of fear. And that goes with when we were quarantining, that goes with not going to school, that goes with wearing a mask when we go to church. We're doing this out of love, not fear.
Okay. The 14-year-old, by the way, follow him around with a notepad because now he knows everything.
Oh, he's known everything since he was 3, that one. So,
Well, let's talk about school then, because we've had superintendents from different school districts on this morning. We've had Jillian Balo, school superintendent for Wyoming, on. And they have worked really hard from there. Of course, this is uncharted territory.
Absolutely.
On bringing school home so your kids could sit in front of the computer and attend class. Okay, again, give them a little bit of a break. Uncharted territory. This has really not been tried before. How are they doing?
All right, so here's the deal. As you mentioned, I have an education background. I was a first grade teacher for 5 years in Cheyenne, and so I felt like, all right, I can do this. I homeschool my children anyway in the summer, and I teach them all how to read before kindergarten. But as you said, uncharted territory. And let's add to that I'm a working mom trying to do a radio show from home for 8 weeks.
I forgot that one.
Yeah, and then now I am back at work in a building, and the kids need to homeschool. They're doing well, but I think we need to be honest with ourselves, and this is not a dig on the education system at all. This is a Band-Aid. We are trying to maintain our children for the last 2 months, not actually trying to educate them. Does that make sense? I didn't go into this expecting my kids would grow and learn education-wise. My hope was that we could just maintain what they had already learned through the year. So in the fall, when they go back, it's not a complete and utter disaster.
Okay, but I see you, and this is where I always have to preface this. My sister, the schools where she is in Florida, were horrible. She decided to homeschool. Don't you dare tell my sister I said something nice about her.
I won't.
She did brilliantly on this. These kids turned out great. But not every parent is that vigilant, either because they're not organized or vigilant, or they just don't know what they're doing. So as a teacher, you were more prepared for this than the average mom.
But it still was a struggle because, let's be real, this isn't homeschooling.
Right.
Homeschooling, you have the parent that knows the curriculum and designs it. I have no idea what the expectations are until I open up Google Chrome and see what the teacher has laid out for the kids. So I just want to emphasize that this is once again distance learning, and this isn't what, if you were to homeschool your kids, it would look like. We have had, I would say, every single day, at least one kid is frustrated with the experience.
Sure.
Not all 5 kids, but also when you think about it, a regular school week, you would have a bad day anyway, every once in a while, right? They're not learning. And this is not a dig on the teachers. Okay. They're not able to learn new concepts, and that is through no fault of the teachers. I can't teach my 14-year-old how to do algebra. I can't. And while there's some amazing programs like IXL and everything like there, I didn't see the educational growth that they would have had if they were in the regular public school classroom. But I was okay with that, right? As you said, these are unexpected times. Everyone's doing the best they can. What I'm interested in is what the recommendations and the support is for the summer for these kids, because we're done we were done yesterday was our last day of school, but I can't just leave my kids to play for the next 3 months or it's going to be a disaster in the fall. And I think people aren't thinking about that.
Well, let's talk about structure once again. You'll do better at this than the average mom, considering your background, but to get the kids to sit down in the classroom is difficult enough. For the parents to get the kids to sit still and work at home, that's not the usual atmosphere.
Especially if you already have a child that has behavior problems or that you have, that you struggle with already. It's definitely a complicated issue.
They grow up to be talk show hosts, by the way.
Yeah.
Slightly ADD and a
or
bit
bloggers,
dyslexic.
right?
Yes, exactly. Right? By the way, Prairie Wife and Heels, where do they find you there?
PrairieWifeandHeels.com, right there. You said it. Easy enough.
Besides doing this program in Prairie Wife and Heels, you also are on the country station, which is...
Yeah, My Country 95.5 every weekday morning, 6 to 10.
Do you feel like you're cheating on Doc right now?
I do feel a little bit like I'm cheating on Doc. He was gracious and kind to let me sneak across the hall and visit with you.
All right, we won't talk about it past this. Jade Lain, Title I teacher in Cheyenne, and Kelsey Ticknor, special ed teacher, Glenrock, used to teach at Kelly Walsh High School. And are these friends of yours?
They are. Jade and I actually were team teachers when I was a first grade teacher in Cheyenne. And Kelsey, my kiddos, go to school with her kids. We're wrestling moms together.
Let me ask the first question, then I'm going to let the three of you. By the way, thanks for both of you coming on.
Hey, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Jade.
So now, before I turn it over to you, I'm going to let you, Cathy, have this question and then let you guys run with it. As they talk about reopening schools in the fall, I don't care what grade, what level we're at, and this is also a question from a listener, not just my question. I'm just trying to picture, how do you get kids in school to socially distance when school, especially high school, is all about socializing? How do you bring them back and do that? I don't understand how it works.
Well, I have to say that's the same question on my mind. I know as a first grade teacher and working with kids that are in the lower grades, that part of it is the hugging and it's the messing with their hair. That's how you connect with your students. So that's definitely...
Well, not the guys, but okay.
I feel like, no, yeah, I'm
Chest
lower
bumping,
element. Jade, would you say you've ruffled a head or two?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kelsey, are you on there too?
I am.
Yeah, and would you agree that that's definitely going to be a challenge, is that physical connection, that the appropriate physical connection that teachers have with kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to, it's like now when you see your friend at the store and you're like, I can't hug you. So let's go back to the beginning of all this. Jade and Kelsey, how much time were you given to transition, and just talk a little bit about that? I think it's really important to use this opportunity to let our listeners know the background and what it's been like for you as educators.
Well, we had about 2 weeks that were off completely, and then we had spring break, so it was about 3 weeks.
And so did you know during that 3 weeks that you needed to be prepping, Jade? Did your administrator kind of clue you in on that?
Oh, yeah, but then also, all of us were thinking at the beginning it was 2 weeks to slow the spread, right? And so everyone thinks, okay, are we coming back? And then, so I think the prepping to getting we're still transitioning is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's probably a very valid statement right there. And Jade, you still have 2 weeks of school left in Cheyenne?
Next week is our last week.
Next week is your last week. So, Kelsey, as a special ed teacher, what were the specific challenges that you had? Because you already have children that struggle with learning in the classroom full time. How on earth are you going to do that distance learning? What was that transition like for your team?
We knew some of those challenges, so we were thinking, what are we going to do for those kids? And I knew for one of my kids specifically, I was going to have to meet. I was going to have to do whatever I could to make sure I was meeting more often. If I couldn't meet with Zoom, Zoom was really important, meeting, video conferencing, just for attention, making connections, meeting more often than other teachers might have to meet with their kids. That frequent check, part of an accommodation for students. If we have that, we were really trying to meet those needs. So I met often with them, and during that transition time, whatever programs that we could find that would be really engaging that they'd want to use, we were looking for those.
Yeah, I'm sure trying to find resources is an extra challenge for both of you. So Jade and Kelsey, you can go ahead and answer first. I know it's a little tricky with us not being in studio together. I want to know, as a parent, I feel like I had to take a lot of responsibility for my kids' education that I didn't have to before. Before, you put them on the bus, see you later, make sure they do homework. Now I had to make sure they were sitting down every single day. Jade and Kelsey, how do you feel about that responsibility being put on the parents? Do you think it was successful, or do you think that sometimes would make or break the education experience for your students?
I think it did. It did for some parents. It was difficult for some. Some were able to get it. And so I know that we were checking in with parents a lot, seeing what we could do to help them so that they knew what was going on. Our special ed department sent out schedules so that parents knew when things were happening, which helped for them to know when their kids needed to do things.
Yeah, I don't know how many alarms I have on my phone for all the Zoom conferences. So, Jade, I know you work at a Title I school, which that offers challenges in itself with kids that are coming from food insecure families and issues with parents. Was this a big concern for you and your staff, that emotional well-being aspect? Would you say maybe that was even more than the educational part?
Well, yeah, we're it's dissatisfying, you know. There's a lot of kids that are AWOL right now, so we don't really know what's happening.
Yeah, and I think too, having taught at that school with you, a lot of times our mantra was, when they're with us for that 8 hours, they're safe, and sometimes that's all we could do. As a teacher, have you guys been able to connect with any of those families, or is it, like you said, it's just really concerning right now and you're just nervous about what you're going to get in the fall?
Well, I'm not nervous about the fall so much, but you know, everyone's just doing the best that they can, and but there's a lot of, you know, kids are falling through the cracks, and the connection is absent. I mean, we try to meet with them and find them and get to them, but there's not a connection there.
Well,
Jay,
you
know,
let me jump in
find
real quick.
yourself.
I just want to jump in real quick because I was asking you this question earlier, Cathy. This seems important to me, that parents participate. They have to. But sometimes it's not just the kid that has an emotional problem. The parents do. And there can even be alcohol problems. There could be so many issues at home. So to get a hold of that parent and say, hey, we're going to need you to participate and pay attention here. At some point, do you just throw up your hands and say, there's nothing I can do here? Or is there some agency you can go to for help? How do you deal with that?
Well, and I think listening, this is why I wanted to ask this question. And Jade, I appreciate your honesty, because the frustration and the emotion in your voice is clear, comes across clear. And this is what I want the listeners to know. This is hard on the teachers. They want to be with their kids. And so to not know how they're doing, and it's frustrating because, as you said, Glen, you can't make people do the right thing. You can't make the parents have their kids get on homeschool and do that.
On the phone with us, Jade Lain, Title I teacher in Cheyenne, and Kelsey Ticknor, special ed teacher in Glenrock, to talk with us about, well, some of the special needs that kids are facing today, and they're going to be facing them, I think, in spades when they get back into school in the fall.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I feel like I maybe didn't say, Jade and Kelsey, thank you for all the hard work that you and the other educators are doing behind the scenes so that we as parents can kind of help you maintain all the hard work you put in before the pandemic. A lot of us are super excited about fall and sending our kids back to you. Maybe just me, but you know. But here's the deal. We'll go ahead, Kelsey, and start with you, and then Jade, will have you answer next. I know, like I said, with having you calling in, that's a little tricky. The fall is going to be rough. Okay, I think between summer, that transition where kids are kind of not having that practice time to sit down and work, and then adding on top of that this 8, 9, 10 weeks of distance learning. Kelsey, as a special ed teacher, what kind of challenges are you expecting when those kids come back in the fall, and what are you kind of doing to preemptively make that transition easier?
Well, I know that I will be getting more familiar with either Canvas or Google Classroom, just in case we have a mix, because we don't really know what the fall is going to look like. We don't know if there's going to be a mix of learning. So I'm going to be more familiar with that so I can be more effective in case we do have a mix of learning. Trying to figure out different ways of structuring classrooms, placing, rotations. That's been my main focus, because if we do come back, I know other people will have come up with the plans for how we're going to schedule them if we have to be on a rotation.
Well, and I think you made a really valid point. Just because school starts in the fall doesn't mean everyone's going to feel comfortable sending their children. So the fact that you're going to be spending the summer working on new ways to be fluid and flexible, I think a lot of teachers are going to be doing that. And I can't speak for every school district, but I know Glenrock has been doing a lot of online Facebook interaction with parents to find out concerns and feedback. And I would expect to see a lot of other districts doing that as well. So Jade, what are you thinking are going to be some of the challenges in the fall that are going to be bigger than what they normally are with that transition back?
Well, first of all, the fall is going to be glorious, and the kids coming back to school is going to be amazing.
I love it. Amen.
I can't wait for them, you know. So,
yeah.
And then what are we going to do? My job is to catch up kids who are young readers who are behind.
Yep.
And I don't really see, there's not going to be, I don't know. I mean, we're going to have kids that are behind, and we're going to catch them up, and then we're going to have a blast doing it.
I love that. And I think that your positive attitude right there is something that we as parents can help with. And speaking of how parents can help, I've got 2 teachers on the phone right now. Let all of our listeners know. Jade, we'll start with you. Can you just say one thing that maybe we as parents can do to help make that fall transition better for you as educators?
Have your kids read to your kids, smile at them, and feed them.
I love that. See your children. Jade, that's huge. And read to them. You can never have enough reading, even graphic novels and comic books. There's the teacher in me. Kelsey, what about you?
That's fantastic. I agree with that so much. That's what I have my kids do. So let them play and read and do fun stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, let me ask all of you here, because not being someone who has to deal with this every single day, I wouldn't know, but which is more difficult at what age group? The little kids, which is like herding kittens, or is it the teenagers, which are fiercely independent, and that's herding the big cats? Which is harder to deal with?
Jade and Kelsey, I think you're going to agree with this statement. Feel free not to, but I think every age and stage has its own joys and challenges.
Yes.
Yeah. We put that in air quotes, joys and challenges.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let me ask the teachers this, and I mean all 3 of you here. So we're talking about how this is going to change the lives of the kids, but how does this change the lives and the workload of the teachers? Because this is going to be different for you. So let's start with Jade here. How do you think?
I guess I don't know. I mean, if we're not gonna have school, then and we're just gonna be assigning things to kids and parents, then I mean that's a huge difference. I mean, a huge piece of what we do at ARP Elementary School is social emotional.
Yeah.
And
we're going to have to be
exactly what our job is without the kids.
Yeah, we're going to have to be fluid and flexible, and I'm just going to cross my fingers that we're going to be in school in the fall. Jade and Kelsey, thank you so much for your time today with me. I appreciate it, and thank you and all the other educators for all you do for our community.